time, and everyone knew years ago that the Negro would have to be given equality. But in the South, knowing Negroes as we think we do, we realized it would take time. It's been compared to straightening teeth. It takes a slow, steady pressure. You can't do it with a hammer.
Oh my God.
All right, no. All right, let's just get into it. Let's just get into it.
Hasty, what was life like in those early days?
As far as the colored people were concerned, I feel that they were a good bit happier than they are now. They had less in the way of material things. But I can remember back in the 20s, when I was a small boy, they were always singing at their work. They had a great sense of humor. And now today, they just don't seem to care much about that as they used to. And I think they've lost their sense of humor somewhat, which I deplore.
What do you think are the differences between the races?
I think there's a refusal to accept responsibility. I think there's a lack of motivation. I've tried here to promote people to foremen, superintendents, but they just refuse to do it. They just don't want the responsibility. They don't worry like the white man. If they have troubles, they go to sleep and wake up the next morning, and that trouble is over.
Is it possible that white people have something to do with the lack of ability for blacks to assimilate into this culture?
Absolutely. The white man has certainly been prejudiced and to quite an extent unfair. But customs die awful hard. It takes a long time, and everyone knew years ago that the Negro would have to be given equality. But in the South, knowing Negroes as we think we do, we realized it would take time. It's been compared to straightening teeth. It takes a slow, steady pressure. You can't do it with a hammer. And white people's attitudes will change in time. I'm a lot more liberal than I was 5 years ago, and I know I'll be a lot more liberal 5 years from now, and I think almost everyone else is in that category.
What has tended to make you more liberal?
I know I'm on mute. I farted. Just being honest, I farted. Yeah, my bad. All right. Thinking about what he said, and I was trying to hold off on commenting too much, but the things that he said thus far, just as far as like him saying that they knew that the nigga would eventually want equality or need equality, but it had to be a slow and steady process, like moving a tooth over. When I look at black people today, and this is going to sound crazy, or maybe it will, maybe it won't. But can we say that he's wrong? And what's so wild about it is, I would say, looking based on history, y'all have heard me say it before, where we made a lot more strides after slavery, during Reconstruction, around that time. There was more of a emphasis for us to take things into our own hands. We had our own economy. Some of these things were forced upon us with segregation. So when you have your own economies, just from that standpoint, things are going to be better. You got your own banks, you got your own businesses, got your own dentists, grocery stores, all these different things. It was forced unity in a lot of ways, and we talked about this before. But once segregation was removed, this has been a very slow process. It has been like moving teeth. And nobody can tell me why. It's like, have y'all ever asked your black friends or maybe ever asked your white friends, like, yo, why do you think black people are struggling so much in America? This is another question that separates liberal-minded people from perhaps conservative-minded people or whatever else category there is. The answer to that question is probably going to set your perspective on how you view what can actually save black people. Having the perspective of, well, it's because of this group, it's because of this, it's because we were oppressed for 400 years, you can't do it. Liberal-minded. Sounds like you think that you're owed something. Sounds like you want some social programs. Sounds like you want some reparations. Sounds like maybe that's what we're inclined to have. But perhaps we should be a little bit smarter in how we get those reparations. Perhaps it shouldn't come in the forms of social programs, but it should have came in the form of what it initially was supposed to come in, 40 acres and a mule. Perhaps we should be intelligent enough to realize, like, hey, these social programs, they kind of set us back a bit. This process should not be taking this long. We should not be at the bottom when it comes to financial success and household income when it comes to America. But we also can't have these straightforward conversations because depending on what side of the argument you're on, you're either going to be canceled if you speak like, or the rest of the black people won't align with you. If you say, look, man, forget what white people have done. I'm tired of blaming white people for stuff. It's on you. It's on me. Nobody else is responsible for whether or not we're successful besides us. Stop blaming white people for stuff. Stop waiting for Jesus to come. That pisses a lot of people off. People don't want to accept the responsibility and accountability that comes with that. So what do we end up having? We end up having this slow process. And something that you mentioned earlier, Steve, that I already let the video begin, but I wanted to go back and address, is he said that he believed in God and that God created the universe. He then stated that God of the Bible was not that God. In my mind, there's absolutely no way that the God in the Bible is the God that I believe not created the universe, but see, this is maybe the difference. I think that God is the universe. God is everything. He's everything and nothing at the same time, right? He's everything from a standpoint of, everything that was created, we could say that, hey, once something is built, it's always built from that, right? That inspiration that comes from God or however we deem it. We could say that everything, God created the universe. He created the animals. We could say all this stuff. God set the environment for all of these things to occur. But when I say God is nothing, it's like God has absolutely nothing to do with what we as humans decide to use our free will to do on this planet while we're here. God is just the universe to me. Let me ask y'all this. If God is who God is in the Bible, then is there anything wrong with what's happening in Gaza right now? And there's so many contradictions in the Bible, we don't know where to go. Are we supposed to eat animals like Steve mentioned earlier? Or does it say thou shalt not kill? Does it mean thou shalt not kill humans? Does it mean thou shalt not kill animals? Does it mean thou shalt not kill unless it's in Gaza? Or does it mean thou shalt not kill unless it's fighting for America? Who is God in the Bible? God in the Bible is 1,000 different personalities. Who is God in the Bible? And Steve asked the question, why do I believe what I believe? It's more of a definition. God is the universe. And to be totally honest with y'all, I don't have a strong stance on who God is or what God is. I look at God as my godly connection to each other. I look at, we all were created, right? So if you want to deem God as the creator and give that the name, cool, I don't care. You can call him God, you can call him Bob, you can call him whatever. It doesn't really matter to me. I'm being totally honest with you, because it has absolutely nothing to do with who I am and the impact that I want to make on this planet. So let me ask you, Steve, who is God to you? Tell me, who is God to you? Is God the same person that we just read on ChatGPT that justified all these people dying? Is God the same God that told Abraham to leave his baby mother and his kid? Who is God to you? And let me ask you this as a follow-up, since you asked me the follow-up. And why do you believe that? I don't care who God is. I'll be totally honest with you. You know what I really passionately care about? How us as humans interact. But it's like, I don't know that the word cat really identifies a cat. But hey, everybody's calling it a cat. Cool, I'm gonna call it a cat. I'm not gonna stand here and try to convince that's not the name of a cat. That's really a dog, and a dog's like, I'm not gonna waste time doing that. If all y'all calling this creator God, all right, cool. Call him God. Call him whatever. It absolutely doesn't matter to me. Jesus, I believe, came about when there wasn't even the J in the dictionary. There was no J in the alphabet, I believe, right? Or there was no J, something like that. So was his real name Jesus? I don't know, but I'm not about to argue and debate with whether or not I don't care whether or not his name was Jesus. It really doesn't matter to me, because whatever we call it, I know that there's something in me. There's something in me that when I look up the definition of God in the dictionary, I know that there's something within all of us that allows us to be whatever that definition of God is. It allows us to be that definition to ourselves and to have that influence to other people throughout the world. So I don't care about the name or whatever it is. It doesn't. And Steve, no, don't run from the question, Steve. No matter what one believes, it takes faith and a continual effort to understand that God created everything. But you can't run from the question, though, Steve. You asked me. You said that. Why do I believe what I believe? Give me your definition of God. Who is God to you, and why do you believe that? I told you my thoughts on it. You can't ask me a question and then not have a response, especially as somebody who believes in this God. So you tell me, please. I'm always open to seeing things in a different way. I'm always open to seeing things in a different way. And Oak wrote, so in other words, God gave mankind the knowledge to create the atom bomb the same way he gave the clever idea to make peanut butter. It's like, however you want to look at it. You know what I mean? You know what I look at more than spending time on who is God and who is it. And my God is the golden rule. That's why I always say my religion is the golden rule. My religion is summed up in the golden rule, treating others the way that I want to be treated. That's it. That's where it starts. That's where it ends. That would solve every single problem that we have. And what it also would do, it would demonstrate our connection to each other. If treating others the way that we want to the way that we want to be treated, what does that do? That passes around an energy that not only focuses on ourselves, but focuses on how we interact with each other. And if everybody adopts that, what would end up happening in the world? We would achieve this greater peace. So that shows how connected we are to each other in my mind. Now, that may be completely wrong. Somebody tell me if it's wrong. I don't know. But that's my religion. I don't want to. Just me personally, I can't. And hold on, let me see what Steve wrote. I believe in God of the Bible who provided a way of salvation through Jesus Christ. There are deep conversations that go way past this format to gain understanding. Steve, I'll be totally honest. That's what a lot of people say when it comes to the deep conversations that go way beyond this format. But then, and you're totally right. There are deep conversations that go way beyond this format. But is it a deep conversation to say that no God that we worship should ever condone slavery? Do we need a deeper conversation just to say that? Do we need a deeper conversation to say that, hey, you shouldn't be able to take over this group of people and have your way with their women? Do we need a deeper conversation in talking about God to say that it's wrong for it to be written in this Bible that you can beat your slave as long as they don't die on the next day? Do we need a deeper conversation for that? I understand we may need a deeper conversation on the overall concept of God, the creator, all these different things. But the things that I'm talking about are very specific. And this is the thing. I don't understand why we as a people can't sit here and say, yeah, I don't agree with that part of it. I don't agree with that part of it. I agree with this part of it. That's how I look at it. That's how I decide to look at it. I don't need to agree with an entire thing and accept an entire thing as pledging my allegiance to it. I want to learn from Buddhism. I want to learn from Christianity. I want to learn from this book. I want to learn from the book that I'm reading right now. I don't have that connection to anything to where I'm very secure in who I am. I don't need to pledge an allegiance to this. I don't need to do it. See, Steve? So Steve wrote, brother, I have 200 characters to provide a response. Condoning slavery and writing about it as a historical reference of the time are two very different things. Steve, I think you may be misinformed on this particular aspect of it. We're not talking about condoning slavery. We're talking about God, the all-knowing, all-loving, all-powerful being, the creator of the universe, very specifically saying how you can treat and beat your slave. We're talking about a few different things here now, right? And like I said, for all of the people let me ask you, Steve, real question. Have you ever read the book of Enoch? And the reason why I ask, for the people that are into Christianity, I wonder it myself. I'm like, damn, why have I started reading the book of Enoch? Why have I read the book of Enoch? Why am I looking into all these different things that the original Bible discusses? But the people that are Christian, they don't even look into it. That's what I'm wondering. It's like, I don't see why. Like, this is why I'm going to give you a reason. This is why I don't pledge my allegiance to any religion, because you can't just come out and say something as simple as like, nah, whoever contributed that to the Bible, that's wrong. Whoever contributed that to the Bible, that's wrong. There's no way that any God that I align myself with would ever condone this. Here we are giving God less. If somebody condones slavery right now, if a human being condones slavery right now, we would look at them as a terrible person. I just spoke to people on the phone after the last show on Nick Fuentes. The things that are said in the Bible are worse than anything that Nick Fuentes has said. Matter of fact, they've served as the blueprint for people to enslave people, but we will get more upset and call out Nick Fuentes. But for whatever reason, because we have such a strong affiliation to Christianity and the Bible, we can't sit here and just call a spade a spade.
First and foremost, want to give a huge shout out to everybody that continues to tap in with us, like and subscribe and join our community. If you haven't already, please make sure that you do. We look forward to engaging in some dope convo with you that can help us all elevate. So like, subscribe, and maybe even share the video if you're feeling real generous. On that note, we'll let you get back to the video. See you soon.
We can't sit here and acknowledge that this King James version that most of us have this Bible sitting in our homes was rewritten conveniently right before Europe decided to conduct this slavery in America and use Christianity to enslave the minds of Black people and to drain them of their spirituality and instead to infuse them with Christianity. We can't just call a spade a spade. You said that they're writing about it as a historical reference of the time. That's what the Bible's doing? I thought God is timeless. I thought God is the all-powerful, all-knowing. How come I can sit here right now and say, I can sit here confidently, like I said earlier, that, hey, we should never have slavery ever. You should never beat your wife ever. You should never kill people for greed or for any reason. You shouldn't kill people for good. I can say that for humanity, or for the entire time of us on this earth, on this planet. How come I can say that, but God couldn't say that in the Bible, which was written, what, a couple thousand years ago? The context of the scripture in Exodus was written by Moses about the law at the time. Correct. And I disagree with it. This is what happens. When people want, when there's something in the Bible that people agree with, it's always inspired by God. It's always written by God or inspired by God. When things are written in the Bible that people disagree with, this is just my takeaway from it. And then we can move on, or we can continue to have this convo. I love having this convo. But when things that are said that people disagree with, it's like, oh no, that was man, and it was just based on what was going on at the time. So how do we decipher between what's the stuff that we should follow and contribute to society now, or what are the things that we should just say, oh, well, that was just, written at that particular time? And just because it's written at a particular time, how does that make it? It's like, how does that condone it? Let me ask you this. Do we respect people like slavery 400 years ago? That was the right thing, right? But we had people dying opposing slavery. So just because something was a law at the time, just like women fought for the law was that women can't vote. The law was that Black people can't vote. And enough people stood up against it for a righteous cause and changed the law, right? So we can't just rationalize something that comes from the inspiration of God and just rationalize something evil in it by saying it was based on the context of the days and times and the laws at the time. Or can we? I don't know. I don't know, but I don't, when I'm judged at the end of my time here, I don't ever want to just sit here and say, oh, well, those were the laws at the time. I'm pretty sure, Steve, that if the rules and the laws were, hey, we're having boys play sports against women, I'm sure there's nothing that any law could ever come across to you to where that law to where you would ever accept it, right or wrong. You would never accept a law that said, hey, it's right for boys to be competing in martial arts or competing in boxing against women. There's no law. I don't care who wrote the law. We would never accept that. But then we give the Bible a pass and we give Moses a pass because he was writing about something in those days and time. What if Moses had more of a Jesus Christ-like approach and said, I'm willing to, instead of just writing something safe that aligns with the law at the time, I'm willing to write what's actually righteous and say we shouldn't have any slavery, even if it kills me for it. What if Moses had the courage that Jesus had and said, hey, I'm willing to die. This ain't right. I'm willing to die for it. But then once again, like I said, which is so funny about the Bible is written, Jesus Christ died opposing organized religion and sacrificed his life for righteousness for humanity. But then all these other people created a religion in his name, wrote scriptures in this Bible that don't align, in my opinion, with what Jesus would have condoned himself. Jesus didn't adjust and adapt to the days and times. Jesus sacrificed his life to change the days and times and to advance us as a people. But then the people that created the religion in his name, they did not hold themselves to that same standard. And anybody can tell me and point out where I'm wrong. I've been on both sides of this. I've been on the side where it's like, oh yeah, I'm doing Bible study, I'm reading this stuff, I'm breaking it down. But then when I started asking these questions, because it's just common sense, like literally, I don't mean to say it's common sense from a standpoint, like it's common sense if you don't agree with me. I'm not saying that at all, but I'm just reading it from a very simplistic standpoint and saying like, yeah, this doesn't really make any sense. Here you got black people. And we talk about Moses, right? So let me ask you this, Steve, another thing. If this was written by Moses about the law at the time, and I'm assuming Moses lived thousands of years ago, then when they did all the translations and updates to the Bible, like the King James Version, then why didn't they update that in the Bible, or I don't know, write something that goes along with it so people would not be able to use it to enslave people in America like how Europeans used it? That would be my question. Because it seems like by writing something like this in the Bible, where you're adjusting your outlook, your principles, your morals and values, you're adjusting them based on what suits the time and days that we live in, what ended up happening? Those same slave culture, and matter of fact, a lot of people would say that it was written during a time where, hey, you know, slavery wasn't as bad. It was a different type of slavery. But then what were people able to use it for? People were able to take that from 2,000 years ago, what was written, and convince Negroes in America a couple hundred years ago to obey their earthly master. This was literally the book. They destroyed black people's spirituality, which destroyed our history, our connection with God, our connection with the source, our connection with all of these different things to have us in America as a lost people. And they gave us this Bible. What's the saying that they say when Europeans came to Africa? They say they gave them the Bible and then they took their something like that. I forget the saying that a lot of people read about. So if Exodus was written around 1500 BC, and look at the impact of it. Look at the impact of what Moses wrote in 1500 BC, because then people were in the 1700s, 1800s, 1600s using his same words to enslave black people in America. Maybe we need an updated book. If we got to sit here and pick and choose between, okay, let's cross this one out, let's edit this, let's figure out this one doesn't apply to this day, and oh, this applies to the day and most of the things that apply to the day and time, like if we just live based on that concept and embracing that, then things will never advance to a more positive place. Unc wrote, and if we look back 1,500 years ago, we also find Hindu writing that was astonishing for what is written even today, 1600, using that, but also there's Chinese writing from that period. You know how people you know what they always say about how people, like when artists, when they die, like they're almost like held in a completely different light. Or like with Kobe, when Kobe passed away, it's like, oh man, now it's almost like a mythical figure. Or when people die, they become famous. I think in a lot of ways, these people, whether it's Moses or whether it's any of these other people, what ends up happening is because these words were spoken so long ago, we act as if they're any different than the rest of us. We act as if they're any different than you, Steve, if you decided to write a book, or if you decided to write something in an article about people, humanity right now. We hold, well, this is Moses. Like this was coming from, well, this is Jesus. Like it. We hold these people from the past in such high regards because their words are coming from a past time. And what we end up doing is we totally disregard the people that are actually speaking about moving society in a positive place forward now, at the expense of, well, I don't want to say anything bad about what was written in this Bible from 1500 BC. Nah, I don't align. Their principles and their morals were off. They were wrong. And I'm sure if you asked a slave during that time when Moses wrote that in the Bible, I'm sure a slave would have been able to tell him like, hey, I'd rather not be a slave. Perhaps Moses should have got some feedback from the slave perspective. And then maybe he wouldn't have been feeling as comfortable condoning how to beat a slave in the Bible. But maybe I'm off. Maybe I'm off. Let's keep going with this interview.
Well, realization that the Negro is a human being like anyone else.
Mr. Hasty, what did you think we were before you began to think of us as human beings?
Well, in a way, we thought of you almost as a very superior pet. Something, or rather someone, we had to take care of. Because we had to...
I'm going to run that back and let y'all hear this.
Human being.
Is a human being like anyone else.
Mr. Hasty, what did you think we were before you began to think of us as human beings?
Well, in a way, we thought of you almost as a very superior pet. Something, or rather someone, we had to take care of. Because we had to do so much of their thinking for them. We had to do almost everything for them, that, except living their own lives. Anything outside, we had to do for them.
So they...
I thought of you as a pet, but a very advanced pet. We had to do everything for you. You're thinking and everything for you. But hold up. I got to change this view. If you're triggered by what he said, don't be triggered by what he said, because he's only speaking based on the days and time he lives in. If it was okay for Moses to speak and to condone slavery based on the days and times that he was living in, why is it not okay for this white man to do the same thing? If it's okay for Moses to condone slavery based on the days and times he's living in, why is it a problem for this white man to do the same? You hold this random white man to a higher standard than Moses, who was a contributor in the Bible? Make it make sense to me. You got to make it make sense. Maya said, meanwhile, we taught them how to bathe and eat with utensils, laughed Maya off. But a lot of people aren't aware of that. Candace Owens wasn't aware of that when she sat down with Nick Fuentes. A lot of people are not aware of the contributions that Black people have had in the North Africa, Mediterranean region, in Europe as well. A lot of people are not aware of those contributions that we had, and there's a reason why they try to erase these things from history. There's a reason why our Black history every February starts with, hey, it started on a day when such and such got captured in Africa by a slave catcher, and then they were brought over here on the Amistad or the Jesus Lubbock, and Black people were oppressed, brought to a foreign land, and then this is where history started for you, and then this is where it ends. And Steve wrote, it sounds crazy, doesn't it? It doesn't sound crazy to me at all. If it doesn't sound crazy to me at all what he's saying. You want to know why it doesn't sound crazy to me at all? Because most people just do what we said that Moses was doing. Most people just go along with whatever's convenient at the time. Most people are not willing to stand up and have their own principles, morals, and values and speak against the accepted way of living in that particular at that particular time. Most people are not willing to do that. So nah, this doesn't sound crazy to me at all. And based on what he's saying is exactly what the Democratic Party has done when it comes to Black people for the last 100 years. Or maybe 80, 70 years, I would say, since Lyndon B. Johnson decided to push all of these social programs on us. That's exactly what this man's mindset is. Yeah, we treated you like more, some advanced pets who we have to do all the thinking for. That is exactly what Lyndon B. Johnson put into play when it comes to Black people. And we can take it to another level that we were even talking about before when it came to Rockefeller and the education system, because it just doesn't have to be racialized. We can talk about it from a standpoint of exactly when Rockefeller said, I'm not trying to create thinkers, I'm trying to create workers. That was to keep our mind enslaved to serve a greater good for a small particular group of people that was in power at the expense of the rest of humanity. So this doesn't sound crazy to me at all. I think it's shame on me. I think it's funny. Like I heard this and I started like, oh shoot. Like, like dude just had to, it just showed me how accepted it was. And think about, see, I'm not sure if people are paying attention to what he initially said when he was describing what the slave experience was. Hold on. Can I get a little help with the windows? It's a little loud in the back. But yeah. This isn't surprising at all. I lost my train. Oh, but when he was talking about earlier, when he described how happy the slaves were, like, oh my God, it seems like they were happier before than now. Now they got all these responsibilities to worry about. Before they could just play around and just hang out. That was the energy. And when I think about it right now, well, what would people rather do? What are most of our successful people that we look up to in our culture? They just playing around on the basketball court. They just playing around. They just doing entertainment, singing and dancing, carrying along. And let me be clear. The same way that I look at this white man is the same way that I look at Moses. Exactly what you said, Steve. He was just adjusting to the day and time. The difference is I don't hold this guy in any high regards with any spiritual guidance, the same way that I don't hold Moses in any high regards to give me any spiritual guidance. How can a man give me spiritual guidance when you're adjusting to your day and time and condoning slavery? You can't give me any spiritual guidance. You can't elevate my frequency. But I tell you what, there will be 99% of black people that will go along with it, and you can choose from them. But me, I ain't rocking with it. So you can go have everybody else. Everybody else can go along and hold Moses in high regards and be yo, it is. I don't hold any of these people in higher regards. I'll be totally honest with you. I look up to Jesus like I looked up to, let's say, like a Bob Sanders in football, or my big bro Antoine Bethea. Like that's how I look at Jesus. Just Jesus was for life. I looked up to them and said, you know what? Yo, I like what they're doing. I'm watching Bob Sanders highlight tapes every day before my college games. But once I grow into humanity, and once I'm now competing with them, or I'm in the same field, what does Drake say? It's around the time that your idols become your rivals. And it's not in a sense of rival that I look at Jesus, just like it wasn't in a sense of rival that I looked at Bob Sanders, who was on my team. However, I did look at it like, nah, the goal is to be better than him. The goal is to appreciate Bob Sanders so much, to embrace the work ethic that he put in so much, and his culture and what he stands on and his brand so much, that knowing that I have his leadership and his God, now I can become better. That's the same way that I look at Jesus. Jesus did all these things. I appreciate and respect Jesus so much. Yo, I have the now benefit to look at Jesus in hindsight. Like a Kobe Bryant may have the benefit to look at Michael Jordan in hindsight. You know, you got a little brother that can look at their big brother and go and look at the things that they went through. Now I can learn from those things and hopefully take things to a greater level or push humanity even further forward. But instead, we want to sit back and just idolize people. We want to sit back and let everybody else and just wait for things to change. Who's going to actually be the Jesus? We need more Jesuses. We don't need more followers. We need more Jesuses. We don't need more Moseses. We don't need more people that are writing scriptures about how to adjust to the day and time and condoning slavery. We don't need more of those. We don't need more people that are just going to sit back and not say anything about what's going on in Gaza and just be okay with it and adjust to, well, that's just, war is just pretty bad. War is just a bad thing. So that's just what happens in war. We don't need more of that. We need people that are saying, wake the fuck up. People are dying for what? That's what we need more people saying. And being fearless saying it. Whatever comes with it, comes with it. Do you really believe in the God that you say you believe in? Do you really believe in Jesus? Because Jesus was willing to risk it all. How much do you really believe in it? Or do you just appreciate the fact that somebody else was willing to do something that you'll never have the courage to do yourself? That's how I look at myself. When I'm talking to myself about certain things that I know this is going to be a little bit, risky talking about, okay, what are the things that can come back the way? Bro, who's guiding you? Who's your role? Like, who's guiding you? Oh, okay, that's my God. All right, well, I'm living like that. I'm holding myself to that standard or higher. I'm not going below it. Let's keep going with this.
Oh, my God.